Do you love horror movies? Do you have a favorite horror host that you love to watch on Friday and Saturday night to get that little fun entertainment spookiness going on for your weekend? Have you ever thought about being a horror host? Well, I have a treat for you. Today, my guest is a very special guest who's celebrating 50 years of being a horror host. And I think you're going to love him as much as I do. So let's get started. Hi, I'm Honeygregory, and welcome to my channel, Perpetual Learning, where we continually learn. Because if you're not learning, you're dying. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to my very, very awesome special guest today, who a lot of you know from the horror industry because he's been around for 50 years. He's celebrating 50 years since 1973 in the horror host realm. And if you know anything about horror movies, you've seen this guy and you know about him. So welcome, Dick Dyszel. I say it right?
You got it. You got it.
Oh, good. Okay. So, or should I say, Your Majesty, Count?
Well, you know, people definitely know me better as countgoredevol because, very rarely do I make appearances outside of makeup. I mean, that's me in the background.
Yes, I love it. So who painted or drew this picture?
Actually, that's okay. Interesting story.
Okay.
We'd just been on the air for a couple of years in Washington, D.C. on WDCA. And I got a little letter from this teenage girl. She says, my mother wants to paint a portrait of you, and she will give it to you. The only condition is that I have to give it to you on the show.
Oh, cool. Well, why not? That's a bargain to her and you.
Yeah. So what did I know? I said, hey, yeah, fine. She says, I need a photo. So I go through my drawers. I find this little Kodak out of focus picture of the Count, and I send it to her. And I forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
A couple months later, I get a phone call. The portrait's ready. When can we come down and give it to you?
Oh, nice.
Okay. So I'm expecting, some kind of cartoonish amateur thing.
Yeah.
And so she says, so she shows up with her mother because she's not old enough to drive. And here's this oil painting.
Wow, that is fantastic.
Well, it turns out her mother, Lorraine Stoffenherman, was the official portrait artist for the government of Maryland. She did all the governors and all the officials.
Wow.
And her daughter wanted to become a TV star, so this was the gift to get on the show. So she gave it to me. And it's my prized possession. I mean,
it is really well done. It is spooky. It reminds me of something you really would see like in an old castle. I mean, like really, right? Like an old Dracula castle, right? Right?
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Yeah,
I love
absolutely. And it's been on every one of my sets ever since then. It's starting to show some wear because oil portraits are not really designed to be carried around. The canvas flexes, and then the paint starts coming off. So right in the middle of my white part of my
shirt or whatever,
the paint's starting to come off. And I've been looking all around for people
to fix it. Oh, I bet there's some experts out there who could do it. I bet there is. Anyway. So you mentioned you started in Washington, D.C., like 1973. Tell us how that all came about.
Well, actually, that's when Gore started. Okay. I actually got started doing the horror hosting thing even a little earlier in 1971.
Oh, okay.
In Paducah, Kentucky. I had been a rock and roll radio jock.
Nice.
Rock and roll. And
awesome.
The radio station was putting a TV station on the air, the first UHF station in southern or western Kentucky. It did western Kentucky, southern Illinois, and southeast Missouri. And we were, beforehand, we were trying, everyone who's going to get a job, everyone who was on radio was going to be a TV star or whatever they wanted to do in TV.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
Like your foot in the door. It's your foot in the door, right?
Yeah. So I said, what do you want to do? I said, I want to be a director. What do I know? And they said, so instead they said, no, you're going to be a talent. Okay. So one night, or actually early in the morning, about 2 a.m., I'm sitting in the conference room with the general manager, who's like only about 5 years older than me. But he's a real promoter kind of guy. And we're watching these film opens. They say, oh, the 8 o'clock movie, all these things. This one back in the old days. And up comes Night of Terror with M.T. Graves. And I'm sitting back there. We've been going through a couple 6-packs of beer and eating some pizza. And I go, oh, yeah, that's what we need. A horror movie with a host. Louis turns around, looks at me, and says, you're hired.
Oh my gosh.
I said, I'm sitting here drinking beer and eating pizza. That makes me a horror host.
Okay, so beer is the reason you became a horror host, right? Beer. It was all the beer.
Yeah, it must be. No, actually, I think he knew that I had a cape. This is not the early 70s, and capes are cool. And my girlfriend had made me a cape.
Well, I was the only guy
in Paducah with the cape.
Can you hear me?
Anyway, so I became M.T. Graves in Paducah. But that was kind of a sideline. What really kept me going was doing Bozo the Clown.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Yeah. I didn't want to be a clown, but it paid more money than being a rock and roll jock. So I became Bozo the Clown.
Wow, that's cool.
And
Bozo the Clown, that's hilarious.
Well, because howdy, boys and girls, this is your old pal Bozo.
Now, did they have a different Bozo the Clown on every station, or were you the one?
Bozo was a franchise. Larry Harmon was the first television Bozo, and he decided that he could make more money franchising it than syndicating it. Besides that, he would have to work and actually do the show. Instead of being the clown, he could just be the business manager. And he was probably a better salesman. So every market that had Bozo had two choices. They could do a syndicated show, or the preferable thing is to do a live local show. And they would then hire someone in the local market, usually someone working for the station or whatever. And that person would become the Bozo. Now, the thing was, you're not supposed to ever tell anyone that there's someone playing Bozo.
Oh.
There's only one Bozo.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry. I can't hear myself.
I can raise your volume a little.
No, you're good. That is really cool. I had no idea that they did that with Bozo. So you are just a natural talent from day one.
I've been a ham all my life.
I love it.
I think it started. Okay. Here you go.
Okay.
Second grade. They're doing a play, The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
I get cast as the wizard.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm the tallest kid in class.
Oh.
So I didn't have many lines. So it was easy. At the end, I sat on a throne, and I grabbed these props and handed them out to the characters, the certificate for the diploma, the blah, 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 blah. And that's all I was supposed to do. So night of the play, I'm sitting in my throne, and it comes the part where Dorothy, the Tin Man, the werewolf, or whatever you want.
Right.
Well, wouldn't that be interesting?
Yeah, that is something.
Okay.
Down the yellow brick road through the enchanted forest. Yeah.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Someone forgot to put the props out. There was nothing for me to grab and give.
Oh, dear.
So I'm sitting there, this poor little second grader, not knowing what to do, but I decided instinctively to reblock it. And I said, come on up and get your props or get your stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I'm looking off to the side, and there's Sister Nun turning red, not knowing what's going on. but Dorothy comes up, and the Tin Man, and they all come up, and I'm handing them stuff so no one can see that they're not getting anything. And that was my introduction of ad-libbing and being a talent. There you go.
Very awesome. Well, everybody's got to start somewhere, and you're just obviously a natural at it. Obviously, yeah. Bozo the Clown, that cracks me up. So Bozo became a horror host.
Bozo was a horror host, but Bozo was actually what took me to Washington, because I had quit the station. I was doing 100-hour work weeks, and it was just too much.
Yeah.
So I was burned out, so I quit, and I told the Bozo people, I said, look, I want to when I get back, I'm going to Europe till I run out of money. And then when I come back, I want a job in a bigger market. So they said, so they got Washington, D.C. I went from the 77th to the 8th market, and I became Bozo. In 3 months, I got the show back I got it on the air. It was working well. They made me into another character, Captain 20, which is another kid's character. But then I said, you know what? I'm tired of kids.
That's easy to do.
I want to talk dirty to adults at night.
Oh, why not?
They said, what do you mean? I said, I want to be a horror host. I've been a horror host. I had to fight tooth and nail to do a job that I wasn't going to get paid for, which shows you what a bad business person I am. But finally, on February 3rd, 1973, they said, okay, Count Gore-Devol, we renamed him Count Gore-Devol. He can go on the air, and the rest is history. Oh, I did make sure that as soon as we got everything nailed down, I got a letter from the station acknowledging the fact that, one, the character is mine. Yep. Anything I do is my product. Intellectual property rights are all mine.
Awesome.
I trademarked everything and got everything legally, so that when it finally got ended back in 87, it was all mine.
See, and that's a really good tip for someone who's starting out.
Very important.
Yes. Yes. Because now, 50 years later, it's still your character. You have your own show. You can do anything you want. You travel. You do all kinds of things. You're in conventions. That's how I met you. Was last year at the Preserve Halloween. Hi, Gregory, if you're listening. And you were sitting next to me. And I was like, this guy's amazing. Who is that? I was surprised that I didn't know who it was, having watched a lot of horror movies over my life. But I guess it just wasn't showing in the Fort Worth, Dallas area where I was at growing up.
This is the one problem, and this is where, and we can talk about getting into this now. I was the first horror host on the internet in 1998, but I'm a terrible promoter. I don't promote myself, and that has always been my fault. Maybe it was because the nuns taught me not to be boastful, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh yes.
So I've been on, out there for 25 years on the web, but beyond basically not much on the west side of the Mississippi. So
okay, well, that makes sense. So how did you create Count Gore-Devol? How did I create him? How did you create him? What is the creative process? I mean, because if you want to be a horror host, you've got to come up with your own unique character.
Well, let's talk about horror hosting. I mean, you're familiar with, obviously, Joe Bob. Now, Joe Bob's not in character.
No, but you were before Joe Bob. You were before Joe Bob.
He's a comedian. He's a storyteller.
Yep.
He's very good at what he does.
Oh, he's excellent. Yeah.
I decided that I would use Bela Lugosi as my role model. Mm-hmm. Again, I had a tux because I bought one when I went for my high school proms. I had a cape. I knew how to put white makeup on because of Bozo. So, I just decided vampire would be cool. Yeah. Besides, I could bite a lot of women on the neck. So this was cool.
Have some sexy women on your show and give a little nibble.
Yep, that's true. Now, that's interesting. You should point it up because a lot of horror hosts have a plethora of people on their show.
Yes.
I don't. I talk one-to-one with my audience. Occasionally we'll have a guest on, and I actually still have trouble talking with them because I'm focused on my audience. I really like to, connect with them. So that's one style.
Yes.
Then there's the ensemble style. They're the people that ought to do skits and stuff like that.
And that's like a variety show. They're more like Joe Bob is kind of more like a variety show now,
Yes, that is true.
Yeah.
Then you have Sven Gulli. He's nationally syndicated. He's kind of a one-man show, but he does have side characters off the side, music and stuff like this. Yeah. I don't have any of that. Part of that.
You got that chicken thing, or what was it? A bird, a chicken?
You're talking about the chicken in the noose?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my well-hung chicken, yes.
Okay, well, you might as well be well hung, right?
Yeah, well. And actually, that was, I take what's given me. And that I was working, this was actually in Paducah. I was there, and some of my cameramen threw a rubber chicken at me, and another guy next day brought in. We had some rope. He made a noose. We hung it, and it's been with me ever since.
That's great.
I'm on my 5th chicken. They
oh
don't
my
last.
gosh, they don't last long, especially when you're well hung. You're a busy bee.
Yes, we will.
He's quite the cock, isn't he? That chicken, yes. Quite the cock.
Okay.
So when you're developing your character, you got to worry about your makeup, your costume. You're doing all these things. You're creating the count.
And people say, well, where do you get your ideas? And that's always a tough part, because sometimes you take it from the film. Okay, well, Creature from the Black Lagoon. So you can talk about Black Lagoons. You can talk about creatures. You can talk about the stars. You can talk about trivia about the stars. You can talk about bloopers that you might have access to. If you have a really good movie, you talk about the movie. I don't put movies down. That's one thing I don't do, because, I've been involved in a couple low-budget horror films, and I know how much love and effort go into making these things.
Yes.
And I don't care how bad it turns out. You can't make fun of the fact that these people put out sweat, blood, and money to make these things.
Well, and that's how you learn too. I mean, your first one may not be great, but you grow. You grow.
Yeah.
Continuously learning, like we do here. We're perpetually learning.
You ought to have a show like that.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love it.
I love you. Oh, you're so wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but then sometimes the movie is so bad, then you just ignore it. Beast of Yucca Mountain, I'll introduce that this is what we're showing tonight, and I'll do anything in the world but talk about the movie, because I don't want to put it down.
It's not good, huh? I plead the fifth.
Yeah. Well, sometimes we would do sometimes we do little skits, but right now mainly I'm dealing with kind of like going between kind of stand-up and trivia on the film, or just straight introduction. Right now for the 50th year, we're getting some of our I've approached some producers and some directors and saying, hey, you don't have any public domain films, which is something we could talk about a little bit. Okay. But I would like to show one of your movies as part of the anniversary celebration. And we've gotten a number of them saying yes. In a couple of weeks, we're going to have Tales of Frankenstein, which is the latest film from a guy by the name of Don Glut, who has done a bunch of movies out in LA. Okay. And so in that case, I'm going to just tell a little bit more about some of the actors, the background about Don and so forth. And I think it'll be interesting to the audience. Again, why are you a horror host?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Why don't you ask that?
Why don't I answer it? Well,
why don't you ask it?
Oh, Dick, why are you a horror host?
Good question. I have bills to pay.
Well, yeah, that's why you're working 200 hours a week back in the day, right? Because you were taking every opportunity you could. You had money, needed money. Everybody does, right?
Honey, you just hit upon something that I'm very proud of, and it's something that I think most people getting into the business, any kind of entertainment business, one, you got to love it, and two, you got to be willing to sacrifice to learn everything you can while you have the opportunity to do it. Absolutely. I was a young guy. I didn't have any ties. I had lots of time. So I did everything. I had a minor in journalism, so I did reporting. I was the night news director for the radio station for a while. The only thing I didn't do was sports. I don't know anything about sports. Me either. Well, all the gurus say that if you want to be excellent at something, you have to immerse yourself in it, and you have to make those sacrifices. So to be the best and get the most accolades and the most money, you have to be 100% committed. And sacrifice is one of the main things you have to do. I mean, sometimes your family, if you have one, they get pushed to the side. Unfortunately, that's how billionaires become billionaires. Well, yeah, that's true. Now, I did make a conscious choice once I got to Washington, and I saw that this could be. See, up to this point, I'm thinking about the old model. You work your way up the ladder from small market to medium market to large market, and then maybe you can think about staying put. Well, I went from small market to large market. So I'm going, well, maybe I'm going to stay put. So I did make a conscious decision that when I did have a family, that my professional life would be over here and my family life would be over here. And I try not to
Mingle
conflict the
them.
two.
Well, I see your beautiful wife at the conventions now. So you guys are kind of doing some of this together. So that's nice.
Well, actually, she's and has had an incredibly prolific and wonderful career of her own, and
Okay.
she is helping me out. She's doesn't let me touch money, which is good. Uh,
Not your area of expertise, right?
well, yeah, she does she knows more about business than I do.
Good for
Although,
her.
to be honest with you, and we don't talk about this much. For 25 years in between there, like from 1987 on, I owned and operated a mobile DJ company. So I was a guy doing parties and weddings and bar
Oh
mitzvahs and all
my.
the rest of the stuff.
It's amazing you had any time to sleep.
Yeah, there was a lot of late night stuff.
I know, right? All these things are nighttime kind of things.
Which is why when I get to, I guess it was 2015, I said, I'm tired of schlepping this gear at 2 a.m. and I quit.
I can relate because I worked in the bar business for years and was going to college. I was in college for 10 years. And even when I was on Joe Bob Briggs show, I was doing Joe Bob Briggs. I was doing other modeling and acting. I was raising a daughter. I was keeping a house. I was, I was going to school full time. And I look back and I was like, I don't remember sleeping very much. But now I couldn't do it. My Lord, 9 o'clock. I'm like, I'm ready for bed.
I can appreciate that, and I can tell you right now. I mean, you're still a very young person when you get to be. Ain't you like me? It's
Oh, come on.
difficult to do the late night stuff.
I'm not that far behind you, unfortunately. I'm just, the Botox hides a couple of years. So all of this that you do you do your own editing and everything? I mean, are you like a one-man show now because your show on YouTube, or
Yes.
do you have a crew?
Yes. I have always been technically inclined. I started doing mock radio shows when I was 7 years old on a reel-to-reel tape machine, and I could cut and edit,
Wow.
Scotch tape and scissors and stuff like this. I did eventually get a degree in radio and television from Southern Illinois University. They had an incredible program, and I immersed myself in that, and it was a wonderful experience. I wasn't there long enough because I went to a junior college beforehand, so I only had 2 years in my major. But it was, and then on weekends I would work wherever I could get a weekend job at a radio station, I would do that. So yeah, I was very technically inclined. I can fix gear, I can edit. Matter of fact, at this point, I don't understand how anyone could actually produce and do a program without actually having edit control. I could not turn over my stuff to someone and say, here, make it work. Matter of fact, that happened once.
Oh.
Here's what happened. We're showing a movie called The Alien Factor on Channel 20 back in DC. Okay. And I'm in the movie. Dick Dyszel is in the movie.
Oh, how cool. Okay. Add actor to your resume.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've got about a dozen small movie parts. But in this one, I was the star, one of the stars. Okay.
Cool.
I'm a small town mayor, and I get killed. Okay. And that's my big scene. A monster grabs me and shreds me, and I do a really good job of dying.
Awesome. Practice.
So it's time. The station owns the movie now, and I'm going to host it. The Count is going to host The Alien Factor.
Oh, that's great.
So one of the film editors, this is in the old days when you actually cut film and put the commercials physically into the film.
Okay.
And Bobby, the film editor, comes up to me and says, Dick, we've got to take 10 minutes out of this film to have room for the commercials. Where can I cut it? And I go, I can tell you exactly where to cut it. He said, where? I said, there was a scene that was put in to make the movie longer. It was a scene in a bar with a band playing. Doesn't have anything to do with the movie other than pad it out so it could be 90 minutes long. You could take that whole scene out. No one would ever know it. So he said, okay, great. So I go home, and I didn't normally watch my shows. I wanted to see this one. So I tune it in, and I'm going through, and there's the band playing.
Oh, no.
What did he take out?
No. Not your
Then
dying scene.
it came up to me to get shredded, gone.
Oh my God.
I was
Kidding.
so upset. Monday, I went in, I ran out of the film department. I said, "What did you do?"
Oh, no.
He said, "Well, I just couldn't cut. I couldn't show you being killed because, after all, people know you as Bozo and Captain 20." And they
Oh my gosh. Are you're oh no.
so yeah, that's when I learned I will do my own editing.
Yeah, creative control has its pluses for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Things get lost in transition. Like I had one person helping me and he kept saying, I think your vision and my vision for your show are different. I'm like, duh. That's why we're having these conversations. You're not getting it.
Yeah. And I was always very open to suggestions.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times my crew is my audience. I'll be honest with you. I until 2013, 2013, I never did any live shows. All my shows were in studio in front of the cameras. It was me and the cameras and the crew. My crew was sometimes my audience. If I could hear them chuckling, giggling in the background, I knew, okay, I'm okay. Sometimes they would do things to me that I had to react to, which in many cases helped my improv. Which, by the way, it wasn't until early 2000s that I finally took some acting lessons.
I don't think you did, though. It seems like you pretty much had it down.
Yeah, but I wanted to do a little stage. I was always a little fearful of long lines and stuff like that. So I took 2 years at a community college in DuPage County, Illinois, and it was wonderful. It was fabulous. I mean, and it's what I needed as an adult was to hang around some kids who just graduated high school and had all this energy and creativity. And I just sucked it up and ate it up and said, loved it.
And that's the same as what you were just saying with the live audience. There's, it's got its pros and cons, obviously, but when they're hyped and happy and enjoying the moment, it like embraces you and you absorb it or something. I don't know really what to call it, but it's like you just kind of take in that energy and it helps the character kind of have more fun, get more into it, and you feel it.
Yes. And it gets the adrenaline flowing and testosterone flowing.
Yes. Get those creative juices going. Well, it just does something to you. Like it just kind of, it tunes you into the character, I think, a little bit and gets you more into it. And you're not acting anymore. You're more the character. It's like it gets you out of your mind, your own thoughts.
Well, and it does. And again, we're talking about learning something. So if you're going to be a horror, any kind of entertainment, learn about all kinds of entertainment.
Yes.
Because no matter what you're in, you can learn something from over here or over here, or over here, and it's going to help you every way.
Yes. Well, I remember taking drama in high school and they were like, okay, today we're going to practice being a tree. A tree? I'm like, what are you going to do? Stand like a branch or something? I mean, it was just like a tree. And we spent that whole class pretending to be trees. And it's really bizarre because by the end of the class, you felt like a tree. The more you thought about it, the more you pretend, you became a tree. It's really weird.
Well, that's character acting. I mean, that's what's what you're supposed to do. Did you ever hear the story about Marlon Brando?
No, I guess not.
He was starting out. He was taking, I guess, the Strasbourg.
She was the best or whatever, right?
So the group is there, and they said, okay, you're all going to be chickens. You're all going to pretend to be chickens now. You're going to become chickens, and there's a 500-pound bomb coming your way. Go, and everyone is flittering around, and he's sitting there in the middle of the room, just going pop. And finally, wait a second. What's wrong with you? He says, I'm a chicken. What do I know about bombs?
Well, yeah. That is. I mean,
that's why he was Marlon Brando and everyone else was Chuck was working for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Exactly. Well, okay, so we got 5 minutes left. We're fixing to run out. We can do some more, or you want to sum things up? What do you want to do?
Oh, I'm having fun.
You want to do some more?
I love it.
Oh, okay, so we'll be right back with some more wonderful stories from the Count. Okay, so go ahead and continue to tell us. So you were just saying, why are there horror hosts?
Well, yeah, when we do conventions, a lot of times the younger people, Generation Z, X, W, P, Q,
too many letters. My brain
the
can't handle
alphabet
it.
generations.
Yeah, I can't handle it.
They ask, why are there horror hosts? What was the origin of this? And it really goes back to like 1953 when we had this very attractive, tall, dark-haired lady in Los Angeles with this incredibly thin waist. I think she had like an 18-inch waist. It was incredible.
Vampira.
Yeah, Vampira.
Yeah.
And she was on for about a year, and there was no reason why to put it on other than they thought it was a good idea. And then it kind of faded. She went off and no one did anything. It was in 1957 that Universal Screen Gems decided they were going to release some of the Universal classic monster movies, Frankenstein, Dracula, The Mummy, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
And they called it the Shock Package. And they were putting it out to TV stations, and they said, well, maybe it would be a good idea if you had this hosted. Why? The movies were short. If you had a host and some entertainment around it, instead of being a 70-minute or a 63-minute movie with no space for commercials, you could expand the time frame to 90 minutes and now have 20 minutes of time for commercials.
Yes.
So they would go to their weatherman, their sportscaster, their sometimes the female romper room person, whoever. Anyone who was under contract, union contract that said you were a staff performer, they could make you do anything you wanted. Okay, so they
oh my goodness.
And that's where that came out. And that was when TV stations did a lot of local production, so this was not a big deal. And that was the history of it. By the late 60s, most of the VHF stations, which of course were the only stations that were on the air, were making a lot of money, and they didn't need to do the production. They could buy these films outright and get newer, longer films. So the horror host kind of faded from the VHF stations, and then they went to the UHF stations, which are just brand new, all those above channel 14. And that's where I came in because I was at a station. We bought the same Universal package with a lot of movies. It was inexpensive and the production was cheap, so we did it. Then by the 80s, those stations didn't need horror hosts anymore, and the horror host kind of went to cable access.
Yeah, cable was kind of new and coming up.
Yeah, and that's where most of them stayed until the late 90s, after I said, hey guys, why don't you join me on the internet because it's free?
Yeah, why not? And that brings me into, how do you profit doing this? How do you profit as a horror host?
Well, then that's the other question. When it goes, hey, I want to be a horror host. I'm going, well, don't do it for the money, because frankly, it's not there. And the only people who really make money off of this are the people who are on working for a channel or a streaming service.
Right.
Sven Gulli out of Chicago, he's working for his parent company. He gets paid a salary regardless, to do the performance.
Which he's been around from like the 70s, right?
Yeah.
He's been around forever too.
And I'm sure the same is with Joe Bob. And then when Elvira gets on, I'm not sure what she's doing right now.
Actually, I think she retired. She's only doing like special appearances now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But she was syndicated for a while, and that's how you make money. The local cable access people only make money by when they sell merchandise, really.
Right.
And some they do. There are some out there that make deals where they have a deal where they'll get time on a commercial station, and they will go out and sell commercials, and they'll make money that way. but it's not a high profit area. Frankly, I do it for the love of it at this point.
Yeah.
My money, my web program, as I call it, goes on every Saturday night, but it has no commercials. We sell merchandise. My Roku channel is no commercials and it's free. We don't make any money off of that. I do make money at conventions and live personal appearances. So that's where money comes from.
Right.
You're not going to get rich. Not
Right.
unless you get someone who's going to pick you up and say, we want you to do this on a national basis or a regional basis. Or, some stations are now starting to play with bringing people back, but again, they're not going to be paying big bucks to have people on.
Yeah, like they brought Joe Bob back the last drive-in.
Yeah, and that's great. And
yeah.
he is there, and Sven is there,
Yeah.
and they're kind of leading the way, and that has sparked new interest. Now, the horror host has never gone away. It just keeps moving around from platform to platform.
Right. It seems it kind of goes to that new platform, whatever the new platform is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that myself.
I'm waiting for another new one.
I want to watch a really big movie on this little tiny screen.
Yeah, I know. It's like, no, we'll see. And I still like going to the drive-in. I know it's kind of dorky, but I still really enjoy getting the lawn chairs out and going to the drive-in. It's so much more fun than sitting even in a movie theater,
Why would you bring lawn chairs to a drive-in?
Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, it's almost like a whole tailgating kind of party thing going on. We pull up, we get the lawn chairs out and the blankets and the pillows, and you just camp out right there for 2 movies.
Where did you do this? I'm curious. I've never heard of this.
At any drive-in, you can just go in and do whatever you want. You don't have to sit in your car.
I went to drive-ins.
You don't have to sit in your car.
In the cars, we put the speaker in the window, and that was it. You stayed in the car, listened, and watched.
But the speaker's not in your window anymore. It's on the radio. So I have a little portable radio that's solar powered, and we just set it right there in the middle of where we're at. And
this is at night. Why would you have a solar power radio?
Because it's been charged all day. It's ready to go.
I'm giving you a little. Well, I'll tell you.
It's not getting charged while we're there, obviously.
Well, you see, this is the problem. You're too young to remember the time when the drive-in was where you took your date and you didn't really watch the movie.
Well, I remember going to the drive-in in the late 70s.
Yeah.
I won't talk about it.
You brought lawn chairs, or was it never mind.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what, true story. I like going with my girlfriends, obviously, but going with boys, well, they got one thing on their mind, so you got to be careful. So girls out there, if they show up in their mom's station wagon with a mattress in the back, don't get in the car.
Hey, I remember when they used to have the vans, conversion vans. Ooh.
Oh, with the shag carpet and everything in it. Oh my
mirrors
gosh. Oh my gosh, those were so hilarious. Hey, those rocked, man. They had stereos and everything in there. Those rocked.
Amen.
But speaking of that time frame.
Okay.
So you were a horror host during the 70s.
Yes. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. So I understand there were some penthouse pets on your show.
We were very lucky. Yeah, here's the deal. Penthouse magazine was trying to compete with Playboy. So Bob Guccione, who owned Penthouse, he decided he would send out his pets, much like the Playboy Playmates, except he didn't have them tour. So once a year or twice a year, they would go on tour. And when they came to Washington, they'd go to all the major stations and they would say, not a chance we're putting these women on our shows. So they would come to Channel 20, which is the local independent station, and I'd go, yeah, I'll take them.
Yeah, I'll suck the blood of those beautiful ladies.
Actually, and it turned out pretty good. They would just show up, and normally we would just have a little time. We'd bring them in the studio. We'd set up a couple flats, put the coffin out there, have them stand in front, and we have some cue cards there. Hi, I'm wonderful. And I'm the Penthouse Pet of the Month, and you're watching Creature Feature with countgoredevol, and that would be wonderful. Okay, we do these promos things.
Yeah.
But in 1979, I said, I'm tired of it. Some of these women are actually actresses. Why not put them to use?
Oh, yeah.
So I had a script written out. It was full of double entendres. I mean, big time double entendres. And it was one of the few times we actually had a hard script.
I'd love to watch those. I hope you've got the copies of those and put them on DVD. And
we had Dominique Moret, who was the Penthouse Pet of the Year in 1979. Yes, 1979. And she was on the show, and I just had a feeling about her that she could handle this. So we said, hey, would you like to do the script with us? And she was going to be the county building inspector, and she's doing an inspection. So we could have the whole script on a pad here, on her clipboard. Okay. So she has that. And so she felt comfortable with that. And it was very, very funny. We did 7 segments that night. And in the end, I finally got her to get in the coffin, and I closed the lid on her and said, enough of this script. I'm off script now. Bob Guccione, you're not getting her back.
This one's mine.
Now, here's the funny thing about that. It was a lot of fun. And the following summer, I took a vacation, and place I always wanted to go, Tahiti.
Okay. Nice.
And I went to the Club Med in Tahiti, which is in Moorea, and I was there for 2 weeks. And I'm sitting there this is when the club, people just walked around in bathing suits all the time. There was no getting dressed up, and I'm there after lunch, and I'm in the what was be a disco at night. And I'm looking down at the sidewalk, and here's these pair of high heel by. Well, what the heck? And I look up, and it's Dominique Moret and her entourage.
Oh my God, her entourage.
Oh yeah. The Penthouse Pets came with 2 chaperones at every appearance. They didn't wear any they were not scantily clad. There was almost no sexuality involved whatsoever. They were attractive, obviously, but it was played down. But her boyfriend was there. She had 3 chaperones, and she goes by, and I'm going, this is what she won as part of her prize for being the Penthouse Pet of the Year, was a week at the Club Med in Tahiti. And I'm right there.
All right. What a coincidence.
So she's never seen me out of makeup, and I'm obviously not wearing makeup. So at
the beach? Oh, come on, Count. You don't have it on at the beach.
Yeah.
Hey, it'd be good screen. We call it some
SPF 1000, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so at the bar that night, I mosey on up to her and said, hey, Dominique, I haven't seen you since you were on my show last year. And she looked at me, she says, I said, Creature Feature in Washington. She said, oh, you're that freak.
Oh, interesting.
I go, okay, have a good night. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Actually, we ran into each other and chatted, but again, she had her own
little group
bubble
there. Yeah. Well, she's hot and penthouse mate.
Yeah, at least she was wearing a bikini on the beach. So okay.
It wasn't a nude beach.
No.
No.
Well,
not in Tahiti.
No, it was in Martinique that they had the nude beach, and that was around but that's another story.
Okay. Well, maybe
they don't do that anymore.
Oh, come on.
They've grown up. Yeah, they're not a luxury.
It's not the 70s and 80s anymore, is it? Everybody's yeah.
So
who's your favorite person you've met since you became a horror host?
Wow. Well, you're pretty cool.
Oh, I'm so flattered.
And you were a nice roommate in our room. Yeah.
Yeah, it was freezing. Oh my gosh, it was cold.
Well, wearing a double-lined polyester cape over a wool tux with a full cotton shirt and a vest. Yeah, I heat up real fast.
Yeah, Hannah and I were frozen. We were frozen to the core. No, but it's really so. Surely you've met some really cool people. So who all have you met?
Well, I have met a lot of people. I mean, probably the most fun person was Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell?
Yeah.
The singer?
Evil Dead.
Oh, Evil Dead. Oh, I'm thinking, what's the other Campbell that sings? Okay, never mind.
Bubba Hotep.
Okay.
But Evil Dead.
Yeah.
He was cool. I've interviewed him a few times, and he's always a lot of fun. And let's see, who else? Gosh. Oh, Dee Wallace. I have run into Dee. She's like my, my good luck charm. I go to a convention and Dee's there, and I go, Dee, you love you. Come on. Yeah, we've had more than a few wines together. Let's see what else.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, one of the nice people, unfortunately, he's passed, was Sid Haig. Of course, matter of fact, Joe Bob was at Sid's last. We were both at Sid's last convention.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but there's a ton of people. There's very few people that I get starstruck. I'm a fanboy.
Yeah.
And in some cases, I'm such a fanboy that I'm really, even as a guest in a room. I mean, we're all in the celebrity room, but I was doing a convention in Pensacola, and Gates McFadden, who would play Dr. Crusher on Star Trek, was right there, and I just couldn't get up and say hi.
I do that too. I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm a guest, but look at all these cool people here. I'm like, should I go ask them for my autograph? Should I? I mean, are they going to think I'm weird? I mean, I'm like, what's so I just sit there and go.
I don't collect autographs, but let me tell you a fun story though.
Okay.
About my first autograph, and the one that I treasure.
Okay.
My family was on its way to Disneyland for the opening in 1956.
Oh, my goodness.
We were doing, as my dad would like to do, we were doing a long road trip from Chicago to Los Angeles, and we're driving through Utah, which is not much to see.
Yeah.
But it's more than Kansas, but
Yeah.
All right. So we never stayed at hotels. My mother didn't like hotels. She liked motels because she wanted to have a door to the outside.
Oh, okay. Just in and out.
He's taking me into a hotel, and it's an old big hotel, and they have the big desk in front with the little boxes with the keys behind it.
Yeah, really old school.
Yeah, really old school. And he says there's a round place to sit, and he said, sit here and look at that desk. And I said, why? He says, well, in a little while the Lone Ranger's coming in.
No.
I'm a huge Lone Ranger fan.
I love the Lone Ranger. I used to watch it all the time as a kid.
There you go. And I said, you're kidding me. My dad says, I never kid. And he says, so I'm sitting there, and in comes this guy, tall guy, dark hair. He said, that's him. I said, where's the mask? He said, he doesn't wear one all the time.
Where's the mask? It's such a kid thing to say, right?
So I go up to him and I go, Mr. because I knew as Mr. Moore, I'm a big fan of the Lone Ranger. And the guy was such a gentleman, so polite. I mean, he had just come back on a 12-hour day out in the hot sun in Utah shooting scenes. He comes in, he looks at me and says, well, thank you. And he reaches up, grabs a picture postcard, pays for it. And he said, what's your name? And my name is Richard. He writes it down, and he says, thank you very much. And he was very wonderful, very polite. And he said, now I want you to do something. I said, what's that? He said, I want you to go back and sit where you were. And in a few minutes, Tonto's coming in. And you tell him I said to say hello. So I go back. He waves like that, goes up to his room. 2 minutes go by. Here comes Jay Silverheels. I know him because he's got a band around his head, although he's wearing a tweed suit.
Oh my goodness! He was truly an Indian, Native American. Yeah.
And he came in, and I went up to him and I said, "Mr. Silverheels, the Lone Ranger said, she said, okay." And he takes the card on the other. It was a big card, so he was split. He said, "What's your name?" I said, "Richard." And this is the first person to ever call me Dick. He goes, "To Dick, Tonto, 1956." And I still have that card framed, and that was my first and most wonderful autograph.
That is a great story. I love that. I love the Long Ranger. I used to always watch that. Oh my gosh, that brings back memories.
And to find out that these guys who are my heroes are really nice people.
Yeah. Well, most of them are, yeah. nervy.
Well, yeah. Hey, look, it taught me a lesson. I said,
Yeah.
if I'm going to do this, they're my models.
Yes.
I'm going to be, I'll be nice to people. They'll be nice to me. Everything will be cool. And it has been.
Yeah. I've always tried to be nice to everybody because, when I was acting and I didn't get a whole lot of autographs, but occasionally I did. But then, now going to conventions and everything, people have taken their time and their hard-earned money to come and say hello to you.
Mm-hmm.
And what an honor it is that
Yes.
someone knows you, appreciates your work, and spends money that they could spend on themselves or groceries or something else or savings, whatever, so that they can come and say hello. And it's always an honor. And people get so nervous and they're shaking, and they're like, oh my gosh, I was like 10 and my dad and I used to watch this. And I wish he was still alive and could be here and meet you. And this was our big thing on the weekends. And I'm getting goosebumps right now just talking about it. It's just so sweet. So sweet.
And I think it's important. I mean, you just hit upon every important part of it, and why should you be a jerk to these people? I don't understand that. And then I have witnessed a few. I have witnessed people who have been jerks to their fans, and I'm going, why?
They get an ego, I guess. Some people just have ego anyway. So,
but you can have an ego by you can have a nice. Why can't you have an ego and be nice about it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I've got it. Hey, look, you are not a performer if you don't have an ego. I mean,
right.
One of the reasons you're doing this is to satisfy your ego. I mean, and because you are satisfied, you should return that satisfaction to the people who give it to you.
Yeah, my grandma always said, try to leave people better than when you first met them or when you first encountered them. And I get it a lot of times. People always think, well, you're a blonde bimbo. You're probably a beep, and I'm like, my grandma would turn over in her grave if I was. But I mean, occasionally you can be, because some people are just so horrible to you. But my grandma always said, always when you're visiting someone, leave the place you visited better than you got there. And if you are talking to someone, always try to lift them up and leave them in a better place.
Hey, your grandmother's a very smart person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you can't
so
always.
So are you.
I got something right, Grandma.
There you go.
Well, she always said dream big. So for people who are dreaming big about being a horror host, any last tips before we run out of time again?
Oh, wow. If you want to get it, okay, how do you get into it? That's the other thing people always ask. And right now, there are a couple ways. One, you can still get into cable access. You can join an existing show. You can start your own show. You can do internet. There are some group internet Roku channels and websites, the Monster Channel and Vortex. They're all horror hosts all the time, and they're always looking for new people. But
Tingler's looking for new people too. I talked to Duke over at Tingler. They're looking for new shows.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm frankly, I'm not familiar with Tingler, so go ahead.
You should check it out. You'd be great on there. You'd be great on there.
Well, someone just asked me, why am I not on Vortex and more? Why am I not on one of these conglomerate stations? And I made it. I don't know if it's ego. It was branding. This is when internet was. I was the first, and I said, okay, it's more like this. When you're in broadcasting, you have your management above you telling you exactly what you can and can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very lucky because most of the time they didn't. I mean, they just didn't. Matter of fact, sometimes I'd go to the program director and say, hey, Jim, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. He said, I don't want to know. He said, I want plausible deniability. And that's the way it worked.
Yeah.
But once I got to producing the show on my own and being a one-man show, I enjoyed that freedom. And I was kind of like standalone, and I didn't have to play with other people in the sandbox. I like the other horror hosts. We were I would say we're good friends. And I visit them whenever I'm in the markets. But anyway, if you can get in something like this, fine, because that's one way to get noticed and notoriety and get some notary. But here's the other thing: is plan on the long haul. I'm going to be very upfront. I mean, part of the reason that I'm where I'm at is because I lasted so long and I did so much. 50 years, I mean, right now, I'm the longest surviving active horror host. I mean,
Yeah.
and I could be around for another 30 or 40 anyway.
I mean,
so we'll see.
did you,
yeah.
Sorry, did you expect to be around this long when you started?
I had no idea what I was going to do.
Yeah.
I mean, here's my plan for the future. Which way is the wind blowing?
I love it. I know, right? You got to take it one day at a time. Rock and
roll, radio jock, bozo, Captain 20. We won't talk about him yet, but he was the other main character on the TV station. countgoredevol, DJ, mobile DJ service. One of the things that my company did, we provided music for fashion shows in the Washington, D.C. area, and there's nothing better than being paid to hang around beautiful women in fabulous clothes.
Sounds like a great gig to me.
Yeah, it was. And I enjoyed every bit of it. I've had a very varied career, and I that's what I think I enjoy most about it. I was able to do so much.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So
I meet you.
I know. I'm so glad to have you as my friend. I want to come to Florida and see you guys. I really do.
Hey, you have an open invitation anytime you want.
Oh, I'm going to take you up on that.
Oh,
for sure.
Please. Right. I mean, we've got this nice guest suite here.
I'm in. Maybe you'll see me in December then.
And always keep the pool at 87 degrees.
Okay. You'll see me in December. You sold me. I'm here. I'm there. All right. So where can people find you?
All right. Where can you find me? There's a couple places. First of all, every Saturday night, www.countgore.com. And actually right now, because it's you can just do countgore.com and it'll be there. We put on a new horror movie feature film every 2 weeks. And then alternative weeks, we do outstanding short film. I love short films.
There's some great ones.
These people are so creative, how they can take an idea and condense it into a small amount of space and make it great. I love them. So it'd be feature film, short, so forth and so on. So that's on the web program. That's what I call it. Creature Feature, the web program, countgore.com. At the beginning of every month, usually on the first, but sometimes depending on Roku, at the beginning of every month, we do the Roku channel, which is a free, no commercial channel. It's Count Gore DeVol Presents. You go into the store, put Count Gore, and it'll pop up. Every month, beginning of every month, we have 4 my hosted movies. We have 4 celebrity interviews. Wow. And we have, I don't do the celebrity interviews anymore. We have Todd Stark, who goes around to all these conventions and does a really good job. And then we have I host 2 of the outstanding short films. So we have 10 new videos. So every Saturday night, you can go to the Roku channel on your big screen, 100-inch television set and watch it.
Nice.
And then keep an eye out for, and on my website, you'll find also where I'm doing personal apperances.
Right. You're going to be at the Preserve Halloween again this year. So you'll be there.
That's correct.
In November.
Without any reason, they invited me back.
Because you're fabulous. You're fabulous.
Are you going to be there?
No, I wasn't invited back, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm going to be in Evansville in December.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've got some, but it's harder for me to get away right now because of Hannah. She's in college. So.
Okay.
All right. Any last words?
Wait, so one other thing, and that is in the Washington, D.C. area, if you're anywhere in the Washington, D.C. area, on the October 28th, I'm going to be live hosting at the American Film Institute, Phantom of the Paradise, which was the first rock and roll horror movie. It was a year before Rocky Horror.
Oh, wow. Well, I'll have to check that one out. I haven't seen that one yet.
It's a great film. Paul Williams plays this short, really evil guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Anyway, so that's it. And I want to thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, thank you. I so enjoyed it. I've been wanting to come see you, and this is a great opportunity to learn more. And whoops, something's happening here. Hang on, let me click on this. All right, I'm learning how to do this.
Yeah. Hey, I've thought about doing a podcast, but there are people like you who do so well. Why compete, right?
Well, this is only my third one, so I feel so blessed that you've taken your time out of your day on Sunday and spending some time with me. And it's been interesting and entertaining, and I hope everybody else loved it too. And we'll have to do it again soon.
Could I send some folks your way?
Sure, absolutely. I'd love to. Please do.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
I've got a couple of people in mind who I think would be delightful on your show.
I'd be grateful. Thank you.
Okay.
It's been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.